So good afternoon. Thank you for coming back after lunch. And so this morning we have seen the potential of the transformation in mining from the, let's say, technical point of view. So I will not focus again on those aspects, while I will focus on a different aspect, that is the social aspect. And I will present what we did in the context of the Mineio project. I'm Isabella Bianco from Politecnico di Torino, and I present also the work of the other members of the team, and the full list of the contributors is at the end of the presentation. So yeah, we have seen that the automation and the digitalization can really enhance the mining system with a higher efficiency, enabling the extraction in very different contexts, even underwater, and can valorize the waste to recover raw materials. But there is another dimension that is equally important and maybe less visible, that are the people. So what happens to the people during this transition? During the digitalization, there are a lot of things that change. For example, the working conditions change, the required skills change, the relationship with local community changes. And so this is our focus. So we want to understand how the people are affected. And when we say people, we mean workers, but also the local community, and more broadly, the society. We are quite good at measuring technical performance and costs and environmental impacts, while we're not very well equipped for assessing the social impacts. And this was the gap that we aim to address. So how can we measure the social impacts due to the transformation of the mining system? To this goal, we developed a framework with the methodology called social life cycle assessment. We had some good starting points. We had some guidelines from the UNEP CETAC, and also the recent ISO standard 14075. And there are some other applications that were developed in other European projects. Building on this information, we built our framework that specifically address the transformation, so the introduction of new technologies in the mining context. So let me show a bit the methodology that is composed by 4 phases. The first one is the mapping, then we have the framework definition, the data collection, and the social impact evaluations. For each step, I will walk you through the key elements of each of these phases. So the first phase is the mapping. Mapping means understanding the context. So through the analysis of scientific literature, but also social life cycle assessment database and expert consultation, we try to identify which are the social aspects that are relevant in the mining context, and that are also connected to the introduction of new technologies. So in this first phase, it was really about understanding what matters from the social point of view. And the second step is the framework definition. So that means that we move from what matters to how we measure it. And in this phase, we understand the settings of the study. So first of all, we define the scenarios. We have a current and future scenarios where current means before the introduction of new technologies, and future means after the introduction of the Mineio technologies. Then in this phase, we define the system boundaries. That means which are the phases that are included in the analysis. And most importantly, the stakeholders and the social aspects. So which are the group of people that are in some way affected, and which are the relevant social aspects. In this sense, we analyzed workers, local communities, and society through different aspects. For example, the health and safety, the salaries, the relation with the local community, and so on. Then we developed a questionnaire for collecting primary data and a reference scale. The reference scale goes from -2, that means a very high risk, till +2, that means a very high benefit, social benefit, where 0 is the compliance with the local, is the neutral score. Then in the third phase, we start collecting the raw data. So it's when we use the questionnaire to collect the data that we need. And we use also company data and also secondary data, so from databases, mostly for the upstream processes, so for the production of the new technologies. So combining all these data and all these sources, we have a quite good picture of the context. So here is when we have the data, so it's still not an impact, but we have the raw data. And finally, the fourth phase is the impact evaluation. So when we move from the raw data to the impact assessment, and to this goal, we started from each question and from each aspect, and we applied the reference case that we have before set it, and then we aggregate. So for each social aspect, we had more than one question, more than one thing that we wanted to analyze. So aggregating allowed us to have a final result on the different social aspects that we defined before. This allows us to synthesize the complex information because there were a lot of information from different stakeholders and meaning also from different perspectives, to compare different scenarios, so the current and the future one, and to assess both risks and benefits. So in some cases, the introduction of new technology can mean a risk, but in other cases, a benefit. And so finally, to evaluate the social aspects on the different stakeholders. Then we applied this methodology. The goal was to understand if actually this methodology can be applied in a real context, and we used the Lavrion case study. That, as you have seen this morning, is a very interesting pilot. It's an ancient mine that has a big influence on the economic. It's very important for the region, but it has also some connected problem for the post-mining phase that are, as I told before, the pollution due mainly to the heavy metals, and also the need for the remediation of the site. So in this case, we defined two couples of scenarios for current and future scenarios. The first, in the top part, we have analyzed the scenario of the mining. So mining without new technologies and mining with the technologies. While in the bottom part, we have scenario 3 and 4 that makes reference to the remediation. So the remediation without the use of the technologies that we have seen before, and the remediation with drones and all the technologies that have been shown just before lunch. So starting from this definition of scenarios, we collected data mainly from the partners that knows very well the area. It was a simulation, but that was helpful to understand if the methodology works. And this is an example of results. So we can see numbers from, -2. In this case, there is not -2, till +2. So according to the reference scale. From this application, we learned quite a lot of things. First of all, that this methodology can be applied in a real context, but also that we need an expert judgment. So it cannot be, okay, there is a good structure of the methodology, but the expert is still necessary because each context is different. There are a lot of perspectives, and the human expertise is still required. And not everything can be digitalized. Okay, we managed to digitalize the questionnaire, but the other parts of the process are still, let's say, manual or require the expert. So why is important this social part? Well, because as we have seen, the mining is changing with the introduction of new technologies, but also people must be part of this equation. And if we can assess the risks and the benefits also from the social point of view, we have the chance to prevent the risks or maybe to avoid at all this kind of risks. And finally, to understand who are the people that are more involved and in which way. So to conclude, the digital transformation is not just a matter of technical performance or of the mining system, but also it's connected to people. And this kind of assessment is important to enabling responsible decision making. And with this, I finish. This is the full list of people that contribute. And thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Isabella, for the presentations. From the presentation, are there any questions? Okay, then I will warm up the floor. How it is with the social acceptance of those mining actions? Because probably the old technology or the old approach was not in my background or not in my yard. So how it is nowadays?
Well, in this case, it was not really to understand the social impact of Lavrion. It was more an application to understand if the methodology works. So yes, we developed the application using a simulation of the answers from the partners, but actually it was not really asked to workers or to the local communities. So in general, I think that this introduction, as we have seen from, okay, they are simulated numbers, but anyway, they are quite real. They are close to the reality. And it appears that for most indicators that we analyzed, the introduction of new technology is a benefit, mostly also for the local communities, because it enhances the safety and the accessibility of raw materials and so on. So we can say that.
Yeah, we have seen recently that not only economics is driving the global market, but also the social acceptance, especially here in Europe. Are there any other questions that should be asked or someone is willing to ask? Seems not to be the case. Thank you, Isabella, again.